Have you ever ran a campaign in a preset world that your players are more familiar with than you are? Did you ever have your party enter a town that you were not as familiar with as somebody else was, and when you pointed out that the shopkeeper's name was Daniel, your player actually said, no, actually, in the book Manamana by Manamana, his name is actually Wilfred Wimarmara. Or when they entered a kingdom and you proclaimed that the king was so-and-so, and your player said, actually, that's not true, it's a queen now and their name is so and what. These moments can be frustrating, but they can also be very embarrassing because you as the GM are meant to be the one running the game. You're meant to be the one telling the story while your players drive the narrative. But if you are telling a story that doesn't line up with the way they remember things, what do you do about it? Do you simply just tell them, well, you're wrong, it's actually this way because it says so in my book and your book is wrong? Or do you just say, oh, you're right, sorry, and then move on and go with it as they proclaim it is? There's not any right or wrong answer, but one of these does make you seem less authoritative than the other. And in a game where you're supposed to be the one answering all the questions and imposing the rules, when your authority gets taken away from you, it doesn't look good and it doesn't make you seem like a strong, capable GM. So what can be done about this? If you're running a campaign within the Forgotten Realms, somewhere on the Sword Coast, ask your party how familiar they are with the Sword Coast and campaigns within it. Some of your players may have read some novels that take place in the Sword Coast, or they could have played the exact campaign you're about to run and already done so with a different GM in this exact place. Thus, your party could run into the exact same events all over again and already know how they're going to go about, or they would have a different idea of what the Sword Coast is like based on novels they read and not campaigns that they have played in. For the players who have read outside source books and have adventured in this world within their novel times already, I would tell them that, hey, this place may be different than how you remember, and I'm running it based off of 1, the book in front of me, and 2, my own changes to the narrative. And politely explain to them that if these do not line up with your own narrative, we can talk about it after the session, but please understand that I am running this based off of what I have in front of me and what I am deciding to do with that idea. And most players will be comfortable with that, as long as they know going into it, some of the events that they have in their memory may be different now. And for the party members who have already played through this campaign, they've already said they're willing to play in this campaign again. Now they may have said that because they feel like they have a leg up on the adventure, since they already know all the twists and turns that are going to come across, or they genuinely just enjoyed it and want to play through it again and will just pretend not to know what's about to happen. Regardless of your players' decisions and their thoughts on playing in a campaign again, here's my proposition to you as a GM. Mix things up. Now, some campaigns allow you to mix things up very easily so that players who've already run in this campaign can do so again and experience it entirely differently. Waterdeep Dragon Heist and Curse of Strahd are the two that come to mind for me. Waterdeep Dragon Heist, of course, allowing you to play in any of the 4 seasons, winter, spring, summer, or fall, which will have a different narrative and a different villain entirely for that entire campaign. So you could run all 4 different seasons with the same group of people, and yeah, you still played Waterdeep Dragon Heist, but you experienced it 4 different times with 4 different villains during 4 different seasons. Now for Curse of Strahd, it's a little different. Yes, the season's the same, it's dark and gloomy and spooky, but your card reading will always be different. Because if you're unfamiliar with Curse of Strahd, when you start the campaign, you're going to do a little tarot card reading, which will tell you where certain magic items can be found, and where Strahd can be found, and who will be your NPC ally for the fight against Strahd. You will always have the same 3 magic items, but where you can find them located in the world will change every time you get a card reading. You will always fight Strahd at the end, but where you can find him in his vast, mysterious castle will always change based on your card reading. And lastly, and probably the most significant change, is your favorite ally. There are several different NPCs within this adventure that you can get as your favorite ally. And since the Curse of Strahd doesn't require you to go to every single location on the map to get to level 10, the last level before you fight Strahd, you can play this adventure again, get a new card reading with the exact same players, and they'll experience new locations and a new place to fight Strahd and a new NPC to ally alongside with them. Yes, it's the same campaign, but just like Waterdeep, it's experienced completely differently. The best thing you can do with players who are already experienced with the campaign or the setting you're running an adventure in is to communicate to them that, hey, you may have memories about this adventure already based off of novels you've read or a different campaign you ran in, but I'm going to do things a little differently. I'm going to do things based on what's written in front of me, or I'm going to mix things up so that you have a new, fresh experience based off the last one that you did. And yeah, that can be scary, especially if you're a new DM and you just want to run it by the book. But We're all capable of imagination. You're playing Dungeons and Dragons. You can mix things up, you can change certain things, you can move locations, and still tell a very fun, interesting story. And players who've already experienced the story, or who've already read adventures in this story, will appreciate having a new, fresh look on something they thought they were going to know. It will keep them interested. Even if you're nervous about doing so, you're going to keep them on their toes. And that's where players are having the most fun. They may have expected a seat at your table, an adventure they're already capable and familiar with, but with the twists and turns you're going to throw at them, they may have got that seat, but they're only going to need the edge of it.